Hello, friends. My name is Madam Chiko, here with you on the You Are Limitless podcast. It's always a pleasure getting into alignment with who we are by getting rid of some of those negative limiting beliefs that weigh us down and keep us in a disempowered state. I speak from my own lived experiences with experiencing trauma, drug abuse, systematic oppression, and more, that things can get better once we let go of the conditionings and the negativity and the identities that do not belong to us. So thank you guys for the love and support and co-creating this experience with me. Today, we get to talk about habit formation, which I just love this topic because there's so many different techniques to forming habits and to each their own, right? So I can't wait to share some ideas with you guys on habit formation. When forming a habit, it's one thing to intellectually understand that you, quote, should do something such as eating right or not taking that extra shot of whiskey on a Tuesday night when you have to be up early in the morning. But it's another thing to do the things you know is good for you. The thing about habits is that we are always forming them and creating manifestations from them. A simple definition of a habit, and there are many, but my definition of a habit is just this: patterns of behaviors that we believe serve us that we continue to do. This is not a value judgment. Value judgment means good or bad. This is very objective. Patterns of behaviors that we believe serve us that we continue to do. However, unfortunately, sometimes what we believe serves us in the moment is not always best for us in the long run. So, for example, if you have a habit of overeating, you're going to continue manifesting overeating, which could increase the chances of developing dis-ease related to, like, say, heart-related problems or diabetes, etc., if that habit continues. And so we have to ask ourselves, why would we continue doing certain habits? Well, because we think it serves us. In terms of overeating or emotional eating, which typically those kind of go hand in hand, there is something going on internally, emotionally, that we're not dealing with. And so we're stuffing it down with food. It's very much so analogous to literally stuffing your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts down with food. Therefore, it becomes a quest, a journey of finding out the whys behind the habits we don't prefer to have. Because getting clear with why certain patterns of behaviors have shown up in the ways that they have is really important in order for us to create meaning in the reasons why we implement or we create that change. So exciting stuff, right? Don't forget to be kind to yourself, by the way, because you may be hyper-focused now on certain things that you don't like, right? Certain habits that you do that you're just like, I wish I wouldn't do that. But that's okay. That's okay, because this awareness is beautiful. This awareness is that power point, right? You're in your power. You are limitless. You have the ability to change directions in the direction that you prefer when you are in this point of awareness. Because habits come in different flavors, I don't see this episode or any future episodes on the topic of habit formations as a one-size-fits-all. I really don't care where it's coming from, actually, now that I think about it. So keep in mind the malleable nature of the ideas shared in this episode and tailor it, mold it to fit your own needs, or let it inspire you to come up with new ways of forming habits. And then feel free to share it because I love the interaction. It's so great to hear your thoughts, opinions, where you're at. And yes, the support is so mutual. One thing I noticed about me, and I learned this through using drugs, if I may be so bold, is that I was not going to stop that habit until I found meaning in new habits that could override the old habits. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that most people intellectually know that drugs are bad, right? Remember South Park, Mr. Mackey? Drugs are bad, okay? But many of us still go down that route of using drugs or drinking too much or eating unhealthy or going to bed late, despite our intellectual understanding of the damage that we are doing to our well-being in the long run. Habits don't just come from thin air, though. They are here for a reason, serving some purpose, both the positive and negative habits. So let's get a quick background on habits from a neurological perspective. From the neurological perspective, habits are learned through neuroplasticity. And the idea of neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form new neural circuits and pathways despite many types of injuries to the brain. By the way, this is why, in part, we always have that capability to grow. I also want to make another side note. When I stopped using illegal substances, I thought I had damaged my brain and would not be able to complete college. And because I was in the state, it either created or increased my memory loss at the time, and it made getting high quality grades difficult. But once I understood the concept of neuroplasticity and just how tough the brain is, I started to change my beliefs about this and noticed that I was able to retain information better, getting the high quality grades in college with much more ease, and could read quick enough to get through the LSAT, which is a law school admission test, which, it's the time constraints that truly makes that exam really difficult, but doable, absolutely, even after years of drug abuse, okay? So I like to emphasize to people who think that they have damaged their body that we can always reverse some of the damages or perceived damages through creating meaning in why we're choosing different habits, different ways of being, as a way to lock it into our neural structure and make that the new us. When I talk about habits from the y'all perspective, we're talking about the thoughts and beliefs we have about ourselves that are creating the habits we don't want and creating those ailments in the body, right? And creating the negative images. And understanding a bit of the science is so useful because you can connect the dots between science and metaphysics, or science and spirituality, or science and even religion, and just your intuitive knowing. So, it's really cool to be able to connect the dots. And that's something also that our brains just love to do. We love puzzles. We love to solve things. We like to get in there and connect dots. So yes, let's go ahead and connect those dots. But habits that we don't prefer still serves us in some way. If you watched or listened to episode 3, where I share my personal story, it's a very moving episode. Please go check it out. Share it with people who are still, in the midst of their own struggles. Share with everybody. But I talk about how we have to validate even behaviors we don't prefer because they are here for a reason, and trying to stuff them away only keeps your attention on the issue without any real means of doing anything about it. This is where we start to internalize the negativity, right? We start to internalize it as part of our identity, and we create those blockages. So while having a drug habit is just not a great habit to have, and this excludes anybody who takes meds as prescribed to survive or what have you, because that would be considered a positive drug habit if we were to look at that in a comical way, right? But think about it, it's a positive drug habit. But with the drug habits I'm talking about, it still served its purpose. It kept me alive. And through sobriety, it taught me that I don't like my freedom taken away from me. It taught me that I needed to get my life together. It taught me that I could teach other people that they too can liberate themselves of the darkness, of the negative limiting beliefs. But sobriety had to be the new habit that I had to consciously choose in order to understand the teachings that the drug habit would eventually teach me. I learned that I had a habit of always talking shit to myself, always punishing me anytime I felt embarrassed or felt like crying, because I was one of those people who didn't know how to cry or express emotions. And so these are the reasons why I picked less than healthy habits. I mean, instant gratification also plays a major role in us choosing habits that do not inspire us to be more authentically ourselves, that stuff ourselves into a box and doles ourselves out and disconnects ourselves. Even when I got sober, I created another not so great habit, and that was eating like garbage, okay? That was the new habit, but it was a step up from the drug habit. And so you can see how even habits we don't prefer can still serve us. And this is why it's important to validate it, because validating it depowers the negative judgment behind it. So, it was great. Now I'm not using illegal substances anymore. But yes, I am overeating. And so again, we got to figure out, well, why is Chiko overeating? Like, what's going on here? And so that's, that was part of my process in formulating new habits and understanding where it's coming from. We may starve or overeat as a way to cope with emotional distress. We may binge watch a show that's mind numbing so that we don't have to think. We can drown out the constant feeling of unease or unhappiness we feel at times. I've been there. I've done that. I feel that. We may overlook ourselves, become a workaholic for many reasons, but some of these reasons could be negative, and thus negative habits are formed. And when we do things on repeat, they become more crystallized, more hardwired into our brain, into our neural structure. And sometimes it can feel difficult to change, especially whenever these behaviors then become automatic, when we're not really thinking about it and when we're on autopilot. This is where it's important to become conscious creators, become deliberate creators, get off of autopilot so we can work with our neurology and start to change the neural structures of our brain. But it's really as simple as what I'm about to share with you next, okay? When you have an awareness of a habit you don't like, you are in power. That awareness is your power. We can then start figuring out why it's there or figuring out ways to counter the habit and figure out the why later. Just depends on how you operate. Remember, I said that habit formation is very moldable. There are many ways to go about it, but there are key elements such as consistency. One does not hit the gym once it gets ripped, the same way that one does not eat one cake and gain 30 pounds from doing that. There's consistency, momentum that has to be built over time into the old habit for that habit to be a habit, for it to stick. So we really want to start depowering some of these habits, unplug them, and power in new habits consistently. We don't have to be perfect. Whatever your definitions about perfection in terms of having to show up 100%, that is a really high possibility of setting yourself up for a hard fall. But you can be consistent. According to Andrew Huberman, neurobiologist at Stanford University, it takes at least 21 days to form a habit. And so one suggestion is to create a list of 6 habits that you would like to form. And this is a great time to do it, with the new year, right? And understand that failure is also a success because you are writing down 6 habits with the intention of fulfilling not all 6, but at least some of them consistently. Do you see why self-judgment is not necessary? Because when you're striving for a goal and you don't meet it, then sometimes that negative self-talk can come in. But understanding things as a journey with no end destination means that it's okay to experience even failure, because failure is not failure if you learn something from it. You're letting yourself know that it is okay to not be whatever your idea of perfect is. Just be at least consistent on at least 3 habits. An example could be not using your phone an hour before bed, or breathing for 5 minutes if you get pissed at your boss, or just breathing in general, or going for a walk as a way to ease into a fitness journey. Also with habit formation, another element is the reward factor, because when you reward yourself or associate a word with the habit that you are encompassing, you are likely to maintain the habit, because positive associations have just as powerful of an energetic charge as negativity, which is why it is important to get off autopilot and consciously choose more positive associations. We reward ourselves constantly. It's like whenever we use social media, we get that dopamine hit. So we know what it's like to feel rewarded whenever we eat that extra piece of cake. Learn to associate positive rewards with positive behaviors. Now, it is possible to go overboard with rewards. Let's say you have a goal of not eating out all week and you meet that. Treating yourself would be the reward, right? You met the goal, so the following week you eat out like 3 times a week. That would be quite the overboard on the reward side. But seeing how each of these small goals are just a part of the journey, we can pick up where we left off at any time and learn from where we fell off by our own definitions. Not anyone else's definition, I might add, okay? This is just for you. So when I think of reward, I think in terms of gratitude. So I call my reward system gratitude rewards, or GRs. But basically, when I'm rewarding myself for an accomplishment, or when I notice further down the line that I did create a new habit that's just now a part of me, the rewarding is a very deliberate, conscious thing that I do. I show gratitude to myself and the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, for bringing me to a point of transformation. When I reward myself with a new dress, for example, when trying them on, I show gratitude to the variety of choices I can choose from. I show gratitude for showing up for myself. It makes me want to continue rewarding myself in positive ways. We have to create meaning behind the behaviors and habits we wish to incorporate if we wish to have it stick. We have to consciously choose to realign to the new habits if we fall off. We have to stay consistent with what we are trying to formulate and give ourselves rewards for showing up for ourselves. Because this is a fun journey. This is all fun and games. Life is not that serious. Most important is the knowing, the awareness that all habits, beliefs can be different. They are not automatic as some people think. Our brains are so moldable. You are not sentenced to a life that you do not prefer. You can always incorporate new habits. Remember to not judge yourself for the habits that you do have right now, and pat yourself on the back whenever you graduate to a different habit that is far better than the habit that you were implementing before, such as my drug habit turning into an overeating habit. But of course, we want to figure out why we're overeating because that's still not great. There are also repercussions that come with that. So I'm definitely not advocating that you overeat. So always stay in touch with where you came from, where you are right now, and also what you want to incorporate, because that's important to just stay in touch with yourself and stay in touch with your goals. Remember, goals, it's not an end destination. So thank you guys so much. This is a really broad topic. It was really difficult for me to try and narrow it down in a short time frame. But guess what? We can talk about this another time. I am always, always, always happy to have you guys with me on my journey and having me a part of your journey, because this is truly a co-creation. You help me and I help you just by being who we are. And so let's get rid of those habits, negative beliefs, and behaviors that just don't serve us, that get in the way of us showing up for ourselves and showing up for the rest of the world, because we want to feel our power. We have an innate power to step into our true self and be the best version of ourselves. And so let's incorporate habits that reflect our true nature. Let's incorporate habits that will help us grow, that will help us elevate, help us be more of who we are. Thank you so much. Again, this is Madam Chiko of the You Are Limitless podcast. I do want to make a side note. I do have space available for my one-on-one coaching. I get quite a few requests on my You Are Limitless one-on-one coaching. This is something that I love to do. I am a certified spiritual life coach, and it is my calling to be of service to those who truly want to embody some of these ideas in a safe and loving space. So you can DM me. There are links below that you can go to. There's a form that you can fill out, and please reach out. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for your well-being, because when you show up for yourself, you in turn show up for everybody else. Thank you guys so much for being with me. And as always, you are loved. You are loved. And there's literally no one, nothing, no event, no belief that can ever change that, because we are an extension of source energy. We are an extension of God. And so it is. I will see you next time on You Are Limitless, y'all.